Okay, that's cool. Well, in African
I'm,
centers,
I'm
so
not. I'm not saying he wasn't channeling ancestral wisdom. I'm just saying that normally, right?
yeah, that in particular, I got
Yeah,
it.
yeah, yeah,
Thank you for that. That's beautiful. So yes, so it's just like, yeah, I appreciate that, and you know what? Beautiful that it's Malcolm X, because the spirit of who you are, yeah, it works.
Oh yeah, for sure. I'm in good company, no doubt.
you know, hey, I'll take it.
Mhm.
you know.
Mhm.
So, sis, tell us a bit about yourself. We've read this. I know you've got a lot of books. I know you've been you do a lot of teaching, and what I noticed that I hadn't seen much of your work for a while, and I've seen you sort of resurface and be like, "Oh, girl,
Mhm.
yeah." And so, so I really I recognize the journey that you're going through, and we're all going through during this time, right?
Yeah.
But I just want to kind of get a sense of maybe where, let's tell us a little bit about, how it began for you. Like, where was your, the way in which you think now. I know you've done a lot of work on yourself, and I always, for us, we always want to have people on here or are operating for a very high vibration.
Mhm.
Yeah. We're really clear about that. Yeah. And so it's really important that, people sometimes, you've got different types of people coming through this. Some people don't know where to start, and some people are finding their consciousness right now. So, maybe just give us a little bit of a history about yourself, like how, where it began for you.
Well, I was born and raised in Oakland, California, Oakland being the center for consciousness on the West Coast, be it the Nation of Islam and the Black Panther Party. So I grew up in that environment, and I think I naturally had a revolutionary spirit from day one, because of that culture and that environment. And then also, I have to give all honor and glory and thanks to the Creator, and the ancestors, because a lot, if not most, of what I have become does not make sense on paper. I can't really pinpoint one specific person per se, or an event in my young life that made me kind of the light go off, so to speak. I always had a knowing. Always, from day one as a child, I can remember looking at things and questioning things. And I wasn't really raised in a family or in an environment that was conducive to that. So I definitely have to give all thanks to the Creator for giving me this spirit to be a revolutionary as well as an intellectual and a researcher. I think when crack cocaine hit Oakland, I think it really, if there was ever like a specific time frame that I can really pinpoint where I kind of sat up a little bit straighter, it was when I saw what crack cocaine was doing to my people and to my city. Oakland was a burgeoning, very successful politically, and even economically. We had a Black political system, Black mayor, and there were a lot of our people that were in positions of power at that time. So we went from, seeing the best of what we have to offer to now I'm seeing people, going up and down my street nodding like junkies, and, family members starting to become enemies. Right. So I definitely, and I was around probably 9 or 10 around that time, in the 80s, the later 80s. And so I think that was probably the thing that kind of made me sit up a little bit and be like, wait a minute, what's happening here? And so from that particular moment at that age, I had a drive to kind of figure it out. I wanted to understand. So I started looking at things a little bit deeper. Fast forward, in my early 20s, I'm in Oakland and I'm looking up at the sky and I'm seeing these patterns in the sky that do not look right. Right. And I'm in California. So I know the weather patterns and how things are supposed to look. So I started researching and trying to figure out what was going on. And at the same time, kind of trying to bring awareness to the people around me. And everybody was like, what are you talking about? Like, there's an international airport, whatever. So I think those two things, as far as my specific research into the scientific intervention in our affairs, that what was the platform that launched me into that, so to speak. And then fast forward, just life in general, the trials and tribulations of being a woman, being a Black woman, being a mother, trying to figure out the cycle of life, right? I would say around 2015, 2016, no, about 2017, that's when I started to shift from so much the revolutionary element, and focusing so much on, fighting against the system, so to speak, and starting to pivot into the spiritual focus. And that goes back to my, you talked about history being my first love. Me really kind of looking at Africa and trying to understand how we went from kings and queens to now I see my people strung out on drugs and, just dealing with the repercussions of living in this world. But I also always had a fond respect for the African spiritual metaphysics teachings. So I started to, pivot back more into that, focus into that, started studying frequencies, the power of the mind, vibration, etc. So I think all of those things have kind of, brought me into this place now where I'm in a well-rounded reality where I can focus on what's actually happening in the ground and the reality of what we're dealing with. And at the same time, be spiritually minded. It's this weird thing now where the people who are spiritual are not focusing on what's happening in the world, are not talking about what's happening in the world. And then the people who are not spiritual are not focusing on spirituality at all, right? So I try to be a balance in trying to bridge the gap and bring those two worlds together.
Yeah, I got that. Yeah, appreciate that. And I think, it shows in the balance of how you communicate in terms of like how you teach, how you share. I've come across some of your videos and things like that. And, it's a balanced brain. Yeah. And I appreciate, listen, people are imbalanced right now. Yes, deeply imbalanced right now. Yeah. And so I don't take it for granted when I'm a Libra. So I don't take it for granted when I meet balanced human beings. Yeah. Yeah. So, sorry, say that again.
I said, I'm with you 100%.
Yeah. So, it's really, really important. The times that we're in, that's one of the reasons why Quarantine Convos got created in the first place, because there was a need, if you like, to keep our people engaged during this time. We know that people are having a mental health crisis. We talked a bit about the different things that are happening across the world and how, they're creating loopholes to, allow our children to go through taking particular things without consent. So we know that we're following these things fairly closely. And I think, fortunately, there are a lot of people around, our audience in particular, and a lot of us are on that mindset. Yeah, there are a lot of people waking up today. Yeah, and I was just speaking a little bit earlier about there's people in my family, and people are taking it, and people are not taking it, and we know it's orchestrated to be divisive. Yeah, it's well put together orchestration, and so we have to also see beyond those things. And I think your work, is always, if you like, on time. Yeah, it is. You can listen to me about a year ago, and you can listen to you today, and it's relative. It's relevant to now. Yeah, it's all relevant. And metaphysics is like that. Yeah, it's not linear. Yeah, so I recognize those things. I think I think what's really nice about, when I was doing some research about you and the work that you do on like womanhood, and I know you've got a new book, so I'm going to ask you about that. Yeah. And, when are we going to experience ZaZaAli in the UK, girl? And have the ZaZaAli experience. Yeah. And I think it's important because there are a lot of people who are not, are waking up at different times right now. Yeah. And the healing in our community is key. Yeah. And we're at a point right now, you can't save everyone. We're not at that place. Yeah. And we were saying it earlier. It's like those who are on it, and those who are not are not. Do you know what I mean? So we have to recognize, it's that kind of, like when they talk about the 144,000, it's that time.
and I will just add to that, sis, you can't save anyone. We can't save anyone, right? And it's the same thing you're saying, but it's just a different way of saying it. We're beyond the space. Like you said, some people are just now waking up. Some people have been, having consciousness and awareness for a longer period of time. But I really want to emphasize this, particularly because I have a lot of people. I'm getting 10, 15, 20 messages a day from people that are, being pressed by their jobs, but that are also being pressed by their families. And some of the stories that I'm hearing, the Gestapo tactics from grandmothers and grandfathers and and you know what I mean? Like people that are charged with your care and maintenance that are actually now, you know, trying to back you into a corner to make decisions. And a lot of people are still trying to engage their family and these people from the perspective of, I can get them to see, I can get them to understand. Like, I really want us to kind of, and I'm not saying, you know, leave your family or the people you care about behind. No, I'm saying your number one priority is yourself. Your number one priority is how you are thinking and feeling at any time. And so if you are now, you know, in this battle with your family or with your loved ones, trying to make them see, right, then that means that you are not in alignment with your highest and best self. You can't be. Two opposing frequencies can't occupy the same space at the same time. So if you are actively trying to get people to see, get people to feel, get people to understand, and the level of energy that takes, especially during this time, right? You talked about mental health, you know, mental illness and mental health issues. What about emotional and spiritual health issues, right? A lot of people in around us are spiritually bankrupt, right? And we don't emphasize spirituality in our culture. And when we do, it's kind of like, okay, I'm getting to the bag. Once I get the bag, then I'm gonna come back and follow through and, you know, and deal with God later or whatever. But I think that it's important for us to really emphasize and understand this is the time for self-sovereignty. This is the time to be internally focused. The only way out of this is within, right? So make sure you first prioritize your personal health and well-being, and then what you have after that, you start to apply towards, you know, your family and the world for that matter.
Excellent. Thank you. Shaka. You're muted. I can't hear you. You're mute. I know you're just
apologies.
Staying back and chilling and that.
Oh yeah, I was taking in the vibes, you know, and yeah.
You know, don't worry about us.
Yeah, you know, you know,
like last time, you know, like our last we just have the sisterhood moment. Don't worry about us.
Listen, as an African man, I know when it's time to let sisters connect. You know, so everything blessed. It's not.
I hear that. I respect that. I respect that.
But it's I have some experience with Sister Zaza and the London connection. Sister Zaza was supposed to come to African Liberation Day some years ago in Birmingham, but she wasn't able to come, and so she did a live link in. But I did and I was in the building for that. But I did actually interview you on Galaxy Radio just before that actually took place, but you won't remember. But yeah, it is online still, so it's on YouTube, so you can check that out. But you mentioned something there which kind of speaks to my own personal journey. I'm born and raised in a Pan-African organization that started in the 1980s, around the principle that we were talking about our political development, you know what I'm saying, and them kind of things there, but the spiritual was lacking. Yeah, that kind of spiritual kind of focus was lacking, and so we need to bring that kind of thing together. Can you just speak to the implications of not marrying those two elements, and what we will be able to produce if we do focus on marry that, the political and the spiritual together?
That is a great question. That might be one of the best questions that anybody has ever asked me in an interview, because that is the key to it all. You know what I'm saying? If we looked at the balance of masculine and feminine, if we look at the balance of yin and yang, if we look at the balance when man and woman are in cohesion of male and female, right? Higher and lower self, right? Upper and lower Egypt, right? Positive and negative, proton and electron, right? There's duality in everything, right? One of the biggest shortcomings that I feel like Africa had, and this is me going back into history, is that, and the Native Americans as well, you know, our people are so naturally loving, so naturally welcoming, And I think that because we had been in positions of power and rulership for so long, that we lost sight of the shrewdness and the discipline, right? So there always has to be this equilibrium of higher self, lower self, darkness, light, right? All of these, the duality of humanity as well as, spirituality. So fast forward to today, like I was talking about, the spiritual community is kind of, for the most part, I've been engaging people recently, about, oh, you shouldn't focus so much on that, because the more you focus on it, the more it's going to bring fear. And, people don't really know how to deal with this type of information and this type of science. Well, to your point, sis, when you say I had kind of tapped out a little bit, I went MIA and then came back on the scene. I was following that blueprint, so to speak, of let me tap out of the world. Because what we know about what's going on, the average person pales in comparison to what's actually going on. You understand what I'm saying? So I said, and I was still actively researching, but I said, let me kind of step back a little bit, because I don't want to promote fear. And I know the average person does not that I was intending to promote fear, but the average person does not have the bandwidth, right, to really process and deal what's happening in the world right now. So for like 6 months, I really was out of social media for that purpose, but also to make sure that my personal, energetic resonance was high enough to get me through this, and my son, right? So then I come back and I because I can't take it anymore, and it's time, right? My spirit is kind of giving me the nod. So I come back and I start to, reassess and come back and deal with people with the reality of what's happening now. And I'm starting to get a lot of spiritually minded people that are like, oh, be careful, you're spreading fear, you're going down the rabbit hole, and you're taking a lot of people with you. But here's the thing. The Creator gave me a mind and a natural interest in science. This is a God-given talent and blessing that the Creator has bestowed upon me to be interested enough to listen to 5, 6, 7 hour presentations that 99% of the people in the world care absolutely nothing about, right? I was doing this 10 years ago. I was studying Morgellons disease, which now I can see 100%. 10 years ago, I can see the connection between that science and the science that they're using today, right? So I feel like it would be a disrespect to the Creator for me to not utilize these tools and these resources that I have been giving, especially now when this is what's actually happening in the world, right? So there's that part, but then there's also, there's a lot of knowledge on the internet, right? Exposing this, exposing that, make sure you know about this, make sure you know about that, right? But like I said, the average person does not have the bandwidth to be able to, in a righteous, healthy way, process everything that's going on now, right? So we don't need any more knowledge. We need wisdom. You know what I'm saying? And so I'm very careful in how, if I'm telling you about, this wicked agenda and this plan, at the same time, I'm not scared. You understand what I'm saying? Because I go and do yoga at the beach and submit to the power of the sun consistently. You know what I'm saying? When I take full deep breaths and I am regenerating my body and my cellular system, I understand 100% that it is there is a much higher power, right? That is expansive beyond anything that we can imagine, that is leading me and guiding me, right? So whom shall I fear? You know what I mean? Our ancestors all across the world, they prophesied that this was going to happen. They said that we were going to have to go to sleep for a certain amount of time because we had a wobble in our original nature. There was something within us that needed to be experienced and then observed and then purged. We're in the purge right now. White people brought it all full circle. What was lying dormant in the minds and hearts of our people in Africa, around the world, white people brought it to the surface. You understand what I'm saying? So if you look at the Native Americans, right, loving, welcoming, beautiful people, they let the devil in, right? We let the devil in, right? So now shifting from the spiritual and the metaphysics part of it, now the devil is in all of our houses. You see what I'm saying? Right here. So now that Europeans have brought it to the surface, right? Now the separation of who's going to gravitate towards their lower self or that reality, and who's going to gravitate towards their higher self in that reality.
Yeah.
So your higher self might express itself through being a contractor. Your higher self might express itself through being a mom. Your higher self might express itself through being in harmony with nature. My higher self expresses itself through research and through writing, right? And through teaching, right? So going back to your question, brother, this is that balance, right? Of me knowing when to turn the internet off and to sit back and to be quiet and to say nothing, because there's nothing to be said, because there's no world, knowledge is no longer, we need wisdom at this point, right? So let me be quiet so that the universe and the ancestors can download the wisdom into me, so I know how to speak and when to speak and what to speak. And then the other side of me is that sword. I'm coming for Bill Gates' neck.
Yes, yes.
You understand what I'm saying? The spirit of the ancestors and all of our people who suffered for us to get to this moment, the warriors that came before us, right? That's my balance. That's my offering to the world. I'm not going to pretend like death is not looming.
Yes.
You understand what I'm saying? I'm not going to play with you. I'm not going to play with my people. I'm not going to play with the world and come and talk soft, wonderful, flowery language. While at the same time, we're seeing reports of people around the world getting snatched up and forced to do things that are outside. You see what I'm saying? So I think that. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, you reminded me of there's a great philosopher by the name of Miss Lauryn Hill. And she said that basically words to the effect that the only way to address it is through confrontation. We always thought it was through retreat.
Yes.
And I believe that a lot of what is presenting itself as spirituality today is masking fear.
Yes.
It is masking a lot of fear. And in fact, Mama Frances Cress Welsing says this, that our greatest problem is this idea of fear, and we should. She said that we should stop talking about whatever else we're talking about and have a whole conference on fear, and our capacity to confront fear. Because I feel like a lot of what is people are calling spirituality is just retreating from addressing our collective problems, and also promoting hyper individualism.
Yes,
you know what I'm saying. As a means of not having to address our collective reality.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? And so I'm just adding to what you.
That was very.
I'm sorry, I just wanted to add on to that because you mentioned something. Well, you mentioned. I mean, when I hear what you have to say, Shakara, as well, it's really avoidance is a big issue right now for our people, and a lack of accountability is a big issue for our people right now. But when you're talking about all our centuries of knowledge, and wisdom and understanding, if you like, then we're supposed to, at this point, we've been dormant in terms of wisdom, and what I know about wisdom is it's applied knowledge, and we're not, and this is the time to be doing. If you're not a doer, and a lot of people who are not kinesthetic need to become kinesthetic. Because it's going to be, you're going to need to activate yourself now. We're going to need to be activated to make sure that we are in the right place, doing the right thing at the right time. Alignment and synchronicity are key. We can't afford to be, moving in this circle, or, I mean, there's some kind of something this weekend. There's just like a weekender party, all of these different things, even down to stuff that's going on at the moment. We talked a little bit about Afghanistan earlier. It's like a lot of the stuff that's going on is a distraction. And, when they create these kinds of smoke screens, once that unfolds, and when we were talking about it a little bit earlier when you came on about, it's coming up to that season, Kwanzaa, Christmas. So they're going to keep a few smoke screens going, and then bang, we're going to see something coming. And we've been talking about it for a while. And the thing is recognizing that are you in the right place? We do need to be growing our own food. We do need to be starting to think about the fact that there is a shortage. If McDonald's has got a little shortage of milkshake, yeah, there's a shortage, yeah. Going, if it's going to affect those companies, you know, it's going to start to trickle down at some point, yeah. And how are we going to manage these? Go ahead.
Pardon me for cutting you off, but I don't want to lose my thought. And just so you guys know, I take extensive notes when I do interviews. So if I'm not looking at you when you see me doing this, I take extensive notes.
That's okay. That's all good. That's all good. Yeah. So it's very, you know, for us, it's very, you know, we are in a place right now where applying that knowledge is the key right now. Yeah. I mean, I think you were listening. I listened to one of your videos actually recently. I think it made me laugh because I was so aligned with it. You know, like, let's talk, you know, it was the last video that you had about unity. Let's talk about this before we talk about unity. And it's like, we do have to get you can't be like kumbaya out here. Yeah, when these things, we are under a threat. And in my field as a doula, you were talking about fear. I always talk about fear is an industry. Yeah. And so when we have a situation like this, you know, if you don't have, you know, again, our mental health is key, because if you don't have that kind of coping mechanism, yeah, if you haven't developed your coping mechanisms, your those kinds of ways in which to counter fear, yeah, we're going to see that kind of, it hasn't come to the surface yet. Not really. But we are going to see a new shedding, around us. We've all got a shedding of people around us. A lot of us shed a lot of the people around us for our own mental and emotional and spiritual well-being. But I would say we need to be prepared for a whole new shedding. Come, you see, this time, like at the end of the year, be ready to shed again. Shaking the tree is going to be key. You know, it's going to be about the handful of people that you can count. It's going to be about that time. So I just wanted to add that, because I think a lot of us are like, I know a lot of women are working together, and I know a lot of men are working together, but there's also that dialogue, again, duality. It's that dialogue that we need together, where, you know, I know a lot of sisters that are growing food, but I don't know a lot of brothers who are growing food. And I'm like, okay, so you're going to need to eat, you know. Like, when time comes, you're going to need to eat. Go ahead.
So let me address that, sis, because both of you guys made a lot of really, really good points. And this kind of goes back to the original point that the brother was making about the balance, right? You talked about avoidance, right? And lack of accountability, right? Those two things are, I mean, if I could underscore that times 1,000, I would, right? In terms of the balance, I'll give you a couple examples. You talked about the food shortage, right? The growing food, right? And I know a lot of sisters that are growing food. I know some brothers in America. The Nation of Islam actually has several large farms. The Hebrew Israelites, right? And also, you know, there's pockets of our people all across America that are growing food, right? So moving forward, because, you know, there's a lot of talk about food shortages, right? We know it's coming. You know, if you've been seeing the reports about the containers and all of that type of stuff, right? So being cognizant and mindful that this is happening, right? Preparing. Some people are in a position to grow food. Some people don't have. That's not a part of the reality based on where they live, climate, etc. So in one regard, being aware, being knowledgeable about what's taking place, either starting to grow food or making connections with people that are growing food, right? To make sure that you cover down on your family. That's one half. That's one part of it. The other half is in mentally and spiritually owning and claiming and knowing that regardless to whom or what, I'll never miss a meal. Right? Regardless of what's happening in the world, regardless to the containers, regardless to their tampering with the weather, regardless to all of these different things that we have to be mindful and cautious and prepared for, I'll never miss a meal. My son will never miss a meal. You know what I'm saying? This is when I've been talking a lot about quantum reality, right? And really going into the science and the metaphysics of how consciousness creates reality, because this is where we're shifting to. This paradigm shift that we're moving into, your frequency is going to be your currency, right? So what does frequency mean, Zaza? How you think, how you feel, how you eat, how you breathe, and how you live. That is going to be your currency moving forward as we kind of navigate. These next 3 years are going to be really, really, really difficult, right? And the level of difficulty is going to be based on your frequency, right? So going back to balance, we are mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical beings. This is the totality of each and every one of us. We are mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical beings. There's a Native American proverb that talks about the 4 rooms, right? And I talk about this in my Change Your Mind from Lack to Abundance workbook. So the Native American proverb says that most people only go, there's 4 rooms in the house of the soul of the human being. The emotional room, mental room, spiritual room, physical room. Most people only go in 1 or 2 rooms of themselves consistently, right? So working out, right? Making sure your body looks good, or reading and being intellectual in certain regards, or staying abreast with what's happening in your career or in your job, etc. Most people are not really approaching and applying or expressing those 4 parts of themselves, right? And when you understand the spiritual realm, you understand that the greater part of you is a spiritual being. We can look at the universe, right? They say there's 200 billion galaxies in the universe. We live in one. There's 200 billion with a B galaxies. We live in one. And our galaxy incorporates space, the planets, the solar system, our sun, the moon, Earth, right? So when you look at it from that perspective, it makes the boogeyman look a little less powerful. You know what I'm saying? And then juxtapose that 98% of the world, our reality, is the unseen, and only 2% of our reality is the seen. 2%. That incorporates the planet. That incorporates this chair I'm sitting on. That incorporates the room that you guys are sitting in. 2%. So if you juxtapose that with the human being, and in my mind, the math makes sense, right? 2% of who I am in the totality of the universe is this physical body. 2%. 98% of who I am is the fullness. I'm a speck or a piece or a partition, if you will, of the universe, right? So this is the mindset and the frequency that we have to be in to get out of the fear-based consciousness. People are emailing me every day. I need an exemption. I don't know what to do. I'm going to lose. I'm going to, get into the 98%. Get out of the 2% mindset. Get out of the 2% reality and get into the 98% of the fullness of who you are, right? So I think that those are just a few things that kind of get us out of this, oh, I need to focus only on spirituality. Oh, I need to focus only on the physical realm. No, balance and not being in a space of avoidance, because the law of cause and effect, which is an African, the teachings of Tahuti, right? The law of cause and effect says that everything that has happened to get up into this moment is still relative and active. The fact that those people came and snatched our people from Africa and built a world dominance based on economic power is what gave birth to Bill Gates. So now you're going to tell me, well, we need to just ignore it. No, we're talking about 100-year trajectory. Everything that's being laid out right now has been planned and implemented for 100 years from now. You don't just zen your way or meditate your way out of that reality, right? So,
yeah, family, give thanks to Zaza. It's an incisive conversation right about now. I want to big up Corey Johnson in the building, and we got to thank him, family. We got to thank Corey right now, because Corey says, "Shout out to Miss Zaza. Honestly, I think I manifested this interview." He said, I was smoking and said, "This is that Zaza," yeah, and I was hitting so cool.
Yo,
ZaZaAli, my goodness, yeah.
Corey, it's a little easy for it's not even after the watershed, bro.
He was of Zaza being so popular now in all these different ways. I feel like the universe is kind of telling me I'm on time.
Yeah, you know what I mean? So, so apparently we have Corey Johnson to thank, for the manifestation.
Corey, peace.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
ZaZaAli,
nothing to do with our hard work. Nothing to do with that. Okay, got you.
So yeah, family, we're going to be opening up the line shortly. If you have a question or a comment for Sister Zaza, feel free to post it in the chat, and we will be sharing the link as well, so you can come and ask 1-2 questions. You know what I'm saying? Please keep all marriage proposals to yourself. You know what I mean? And these things, you get me?
Girl.
You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you know. I'm sure there's some big strong African men that you have to go through first, right? You know what I'm saying? You have to negotiate that first before you reach the sister. You know what I mean? That's just the communal family way, all right? So yes, do stay tuned. We'll be sharing the link shortly. All right, family. So yes, just go ahead, sister. Go ahead.
I was just to add to that. Brother better be on metaphysics first, you know. If you ain't on metaphysics, you better forget that.
Oh yeah, for sure. Yeah, that's a fact.
Coming to me with no metaphysics, bro.
Yeah, and the first question is, have you taken the what? That is the new question that establishes all relationships at this point. I need to understand where you are with this first.
Listen, I have a confession. Yeah. I was seeing someone last year. We were talking about that. Yeah.
Talk up the things, sister. Talk up the things. Explore the business. Yes. Explore the business. Yeah, but the tea, everything.
Let me get a tea. In the Caribbean, sis, everything is tea. It could be water, it's tea. Yeah. Yeah. Go get your tea. It could be milk, tea. Yeah. So I was seeing a guy last year, and I'm abstaining for the next year or two actually. So I'm not available, guys. But in last year I was seeing someone early on, and we had a conversation. Nice guy, we got it all together in the world of high value men. Yeah, he was in the high value category.
Excuse me, I'm sorry.
Yeah. Don't girl.
Sorry. You said it. You triggered me with that word. Pardon me. I almost went left. Please, I'm trying to maintain a certain semblance of calm.
That's another show. That's another show. Yeah. My thing about high value men is get someone who highly values you. Yeah, let's just deal with that. But I was, in the world of high value, it would have been considered a high value. And we got talking about this, situation with the Maxine and other situations where these things are concerned. And it went left very quickly, very, very quickly when, he said, oh, there's just nothing wrong with it. I was like, okay, well,
gotta go.
It's time to let this one go. And sometimes you just, you have to be straight about this right now. Like, it's going to be important. My children, I've got big children, ranging from 21 to 7, and none of them have ever had that, throughout their entire life. So it's going to take a lot for me to think, oh yeah, why not? It's not plausible. It doesn't make sense. I'm not even certain dinners people are asking me to go to. I'm not going. Yeah. Don't ask me. Yeah, don't ask me to go here, because I'm not going to sit down and have conversations about this. And I'm certainly not going into this environment and that environment and people asking me, can you do this, or can you have that, or can I track it? You're not doing that with me.
Yeah.
And my mind is free. Yeah. And I'm not creating that space. I'm not putting myself into that space of anxiety or what have you. I go into a shop now, and when it comes to one of these, when I go into a shop, I just give them the look. The look. Yeah. Like, don't ask me. Yeah. Yeah. Right now we I don't know what the restrictions are like where you are, but the restrictions are kind of like, they've eased. They're coming back. They're giving us a little summer holiday. So, for those who know, just know it's just a summer holiday. It's just a break. But the reality of it is we've got to be getting ourselves into that state. We've got to, you talked about what it was mentioned about that hyper individualism. Yeah. And that's a big problem right now. That's a huge problem, because there's a lot of I, instead of like that we thinking. And then when you get to the we thinking, are we really thinking the same, though we're trying to say we? Yeah. So there's a lot of conversations about, and there'll be people that you think, their backs against the wall, and they're hardcore staunch, and when it comes down to it, they'll be queuing up. There'll be people out here that you're looking at and that you're rolling with, and when it hits the fan, they're going to be queuing up. Yeah. And so I'm just like, I just will watch, yeah, because I just know, yeah, I'm, you know, I'm about, you know, I'm ready for my I Am Legend life, yeah. You know what I mean?
Oh, for sure.
I'm just
100%.
getting ready. I'm just getting ready. I'm like, okay.
Absolutely. And to your, you know, to your point, and without going too deep into the science of it, you know, but there's plenty of resources online. There is a lot of information pointing to people that have actually received it affecting the bodies of people that have not,
That's
right?
right.
So,
Absolutely.
and there's a whole science behind that, that I, you know, we won't get into that, but it's just something for people that are watching to be cognizant of. Now
Yeah.
it's not just, you know, flings and you know,
It's
casual sex,
association. It's
right?
association. Yeah.
Flings
Proximity.
and casual sex have a different, you know, have a higher level of repercussions at this point, right? So I think for me, and you know, you just as far as relationships are concerned and your perspective, the higher your frequency is, the less company there will be, right? So it's you know, people say it's lonely at the top, so to speak, right? But just another way to think about that for all of us, in terms of relationships or just frequency in general. Yes, the higher your frequency, the less company there is, but the more emphatic or the more mandatory it is that you meet other people in your frequency. The higher
Absolutely.
the frequency is, the more the universe is going to move heaven and earth to make sure that those few people, those rare people that are in alignment with that frequency come together, whether you're in the UK and I'm in America or whatever. You also talked about the hyper individualism, right? So that concept is being flipped now, right? And I'm going to post a story on my page today. The New York Times did this 7-minute video where they're basically talking about people who won't take it are focusing on this selfish, individually minded type of freedom. Imagine that, right? I mean, it's so Twilight Zone type language that, and this is the New York Times, not some regular, you know, Joe or Jill, but that concept of hyper individualism now, right? There is a perverted, or a different, I won't say perverted, but another aspect of that that's coming to the surface now. Oh, you're wrong because you're choosing you over everybody else, right? You're only focusing on yourself and you're not thinking about the health and well-being of everybody else, right? So the balance, going back to the conversation of balance, right? Especially for African descendants, is for us to always be mindful of that communal, collective, you know, right brain way of operating. But then at the same time, understanding that the left brain way of operating is to be able to stand your ground individually, you know what I mean? And to be move around the planet as a sovereign minded individual, a part of the collective, but still a sovereign-minded individual, right? So, you know, just be, and I want to say this before I forget, you know, because we talked about the word rare came up earlier. If you are listening to this right now, and you're not with the program, and you're not going to be persuaded to be with the program, which is definitely where I am. And yes, sis, a lot of people are going to fall by the wayside. A lot of people already have fallen by the wayside, people that I used to respect, people in the African, you know, in academic community, right? A lot of people are falling by the wayside. But I just want you to know that if you are listening to me and, you know, you are of sound mind and body, how rare and how valuable and how important you are in this moment, in the course of like, this is the fullness of the human experience coming to a, you know, to a feverish pitch right now. Everything that's happening in the history of the world matters right now. It's all kind of coming to the surface. So I just want to let you guys know that I love you. You know what I'm saying? And I value you, and focus on being the light. Turn off the world when you need to, but that internal light and that internal knowing that you have that's guiding you, don't compromise that for anything or anyone.
Yes, sir.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I hear that. I hear that. I appreciate that. We've got some comments here, so I want to flash them up because, yeah, some great conversations happening. And somebody mentioned earlier when you talk about I'll never miss a meal, a Shay. Yep. We have so true. This message hits differently. I think, you know, what you're sharing, a lot of us have we've been talking about it a lot here, with Gotkush and amongst ourselves. Unfortunately, a lot of us are associating ourselves with a lot of people of the same mind. Yeah. But I know I see that now. I see that now, but I personally see, as someone who considers myself to be a seer type, a new shedding will come. Yeah, another shedding, another layer to that who you're associated with will come. Yeah, there will be a handful out here. Yeah, who are really going to ride or die for this. Yeah, and we've got to recognize that it's not for everyone and everybody. And also, I would balance it out in saying that everyone has their position. Yeah, not everyone's going to do the same things, in the same way. But we've got to recognize who's in position for what.
Yeah.
And at the moment, that's where the challenge is with us in our community, is that when we're talking about hyper individualism, we're talking about the ego. So when we're talking about the ego, if we don't get past that point of the death of the ego, then we're going to be in a place where, that person's in that position, that person's in that position, that person's in that position. But are we connecting with, are we joining the dots to make sure that it's seamless? Yeah. And so I think that's going to be an important factor. It's like, it is, call it your tribe, call it your village. Yeah. It's really having that community around you and creating that community for yourself. Yeah. And, and having everybody in position. Yeah. And knowing what your position is inside of that. Like, okay, I'm a doula now. That might be my position. There might be other positions for me. I might be called in at the moment. I'm getting called in to do, say, conflict rituals and work like that. And it might be that's part of it, because conflict will ensue. Yeah. In these times, it's already happening at a different, on a national and international scale, and who is anti and who's, and that divide and conquer mentality. But if we're not careful, if we're not mindful of what's going on and how that's getting pumped into us daily, into our subconscious mind, that is on some level going to trickle down, to our divisive spirits, if you like. If we're already divisive inside ourselves, if we're already a hyper individualized person pretending that your community, you understand what I'm saying?
I do.
Yeah, there's a lot of that. Go ahead.
And that's a great point. And I want to add to that. When we talk about playing your position, right? This is something that I've noticed over the years, and particularly, when I was doing my work in the conscious community, what we think of as the conscious community, right? There's a lot of minimizing people's individual value for the sake of the greater good, right? So don't think too much of yourself, right? But just make sure you come in and do, you know what I mean? Play your, do what is needed of you and what is expected of you, but don't think too much of yourself, right? So again, going back to the balance, right? Putting the community, putting the culture, putting the greater good as a focus and a righteous intention, absolutely. And at the same time, learning your individual worth, learning your individual value, and the things that make you special and unique, and bringing that to the table, opposed just coming to the table and saying, tell me what to do, right? We've been building organizations and institutions on the backs of broken people. That's why they fail. Right. So we have to find a way to bring the people that are like-minded into the fold without breaking their individual value. Right. So finding your soul's purpose and bringing that to the table for the greater good is different than coming to the table for the greater good and figuring out what you need to do. And we're not operating successfully in our organizations because people are coming in without a soul's purpose. I just want to fight the white man. I just want to stop police brutality. I just want to da-da-da-da, right? We're coming already in with the lack-based consciousness. I know my role. You know what I'm saying? I'm a warrior. I'm a leader. I'm a teacher. I'm a writer, right? I know what I can bring to the table. So when you say playing my position, I know what my position is. A lot of people don't. right? So they're coming into the fold, and then they're getting involved with the politics. And you know us, right? There's always some mud you got to step through before you get to the flowers, right? So a lot of people get stuck in the mud, and then they stay in the organizations. You know what I'm saying? So now we're planting crops and planting trees that are not growing to their fullest and highest potential, and feeding as many people as they could, because they're carrying the weight of the whole culture and the whole community on their backs and have not found their soul's calling. So find your soul's calling and bring that to the table, right? So it's the balance of emphasizing and elevating the individual, and at the same time making the collective welcoming and inviting. Not put your individual to the self to the side and come to the table and do what needs to be done. No, bring your individual self, right? And let's find a way to fine tune and cultivate the best parts of what you have to offer, so that we can stop trying to build, cultures and civilizations and communities with people that are barely, in touch with who they really are. If you sit down with the average person, going through all of our different sects, so to speak, or the different, from Christianity to Islam to Pan-Africanism to RBGs to, if you really sat down and had a conversation with most of the people that have signed up, they really don't even know who they are. You know what I'm saying? So there's knowledge of self, and then there's knowledge of yourself. Bringing those two things together is how we really kind of will flourish.
Yes.
On this.
And you know what? First of all, family, the link is in the chat. Yeah, don't wait too long to click it, because we're not there the whole night. Yeah, so don't wait. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, a half hour time before you want to click the link. Yeah, if you want to come speak, click it soon. All right. Yeah, and also once again, yeah, when you come through, hit the like button and feel free to ask questions from the chat. There are a couple questions in the chat, so we'll get to those in a second. But in relation to this, sisters, because one thing that we share is studying traditional African metaphysical systems, yeah, and oftentimes again we're taught to look at these things outdated, but in my humble estimation, one of the key aspects or values for the evolution of those ancient philosophies and practices in today's world is that journey of knowing self, personally and collectively. Yeah, studying Baba Kimbwa and then the Kiyabonseki Fukiya, for example, and self-healing power, or studying any of our indigenous spiritual traditions from what's it called, Credo Mutwa, you know what I'm saying, to Malinde Masome, yeah? You know what I'm saying, or whoever, right? And what you find within what they share is this idea of what the self is central, yeah? Like understanding the self and providing frameworks, yeah, for understanding the self, if that makes sense, right? And then placing that self within an understanding of your larger self, which is your family, your community, your nation, the universe, right? Do you know what I'm saying? As because the universe is yourself, right? It's your larger self, right? So I really I'm outlining that to kind of probe you now on some of the frameworks that you have learned or developed, yeah, for discovering that self, or for fine-tuning your discovery of that self, if that makes sense. I've asked a complicated question, so just let me know if you haven't got it.
No, it's I'm an avid student of the world,
right?
You know what I'm saying? So yes. We could look at the 99 attributes of Allah,
yes,
right?
Yes.
I went through a time frame where I really kind of went into breaking that down, the masculine and feminine aspects of the self, right? Sufism has always been a big draw for me. That is the original African tenements, what later became Islam, right? So Sufism was always big for me. The Kemetic mystery system, so to speak, and how they emphasized intellectualism. The concept of sonum and bonum, which is a Kemetic concept, says that it takes 42 years to become a master. 42 years, right? And that's not even including like your elementary years or your, depending on the environment that you grew up. Maybe you came into, if you were royal, you were being prepared from day one, right? But most people don't really come into any real knowledge of self until after they've experienced some things in life, right? But just the idea, 42 years, sonum bonum. Oh, okay. Like it really takes concentration and intention and focus to become a self-master, right? That's when I started thinking about that concept of being a master of self. Now I have a directive, right? Yes. So then looking at all of the different cultures and this situation, like in Kemet, for instance, Asar, Aset, Heru, right? That metaphysical story. You have the Orishas, right? You have all of these different concepts, the Bible. All it is metaphysically talking about what's inside of you and what you have the potential to become. Jesus or Judas, right? And Set is the original Kemetic concept of Satan. So we think the white man started this devilishness. No, apparently as the story goes, Set killed his brother and chopped his body up and placed it all around the world, right? And of course, that's when a Set came through and did what needed to be done. But looking back at all of these different, historical, mythological stories, and that is a mythological story. Let's be clear. We got people in the African spiritual community that actually think that really happened. There's people, the Christians think that Daniel actually went head to head with a lion. You know what I'm saying? So these are metaphysics stories that we're supposed to take to learn the value and the deeper value of who we are and what we can become. Hiram Abiff, right? He was hit in the head and buried in a shallow grave, and he had to stay dead for a certain amount of time. And then when he rose up, that he was going to, build the kingdom of God, so to speak, right? So there's all these different historical, references that we can look to and see that light versus darkness, evil versus good, right? That's really the underlying thing to all of it. And the universe or God or whatever your concept is just doing this little dance all the time. It's a dance. Who's going to win today? You know what I'm saying? You're going to be more God today or you're going to be more devil today. You know what I mean? So the jihad that the Muslims misinterpreted, that the white Arab Muslims, let's be clear, that they misinterpreted and thought that, the direction was to go and burn up buildings, right, in the name of Allah. No, the jihad is within. You know what I'm saying? Every single day, carrying the weight of, especially in this world right now, being a sound mind and body on a day-to-day basis in this world is a full-time job.
Yes.
See what I'm saying? So I think those are some of the examples. There's some other native cultures as well, but they all kind of have the same underlying theme: the battle between light and darkness. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. Taoism, I think, would be really, our people, especially when it comes to sexual discipline, right? In the conversation of sexuality, I think it would be very good for us. And I talk about that in multiple workbooks about looking at sexuality and sex from a spiritually based perspective, right? Because I think 75% of our issues come from our lack of sexual discipline as a culture, whether it's baby mamas, whether it's sexually transmitted diseases, whether it's the way our men talk about hitting it, the violent element of sex now, right? So, there's just history, Elijah Muhammad said, of all of our studies, history is most qualified to reward our research. I think, looking back at what our ancestors already did, but then also understanding, and I'll end with this point, you look at the Kemetic history, right? And all of the grandeur of it, right? They left all of these messages and these symbols for us. Why haven't we been able to take that wisdom that they left and use that to elevate ourselves to today? The consciousness of those times is what actually unlocked the information. The frequency and the vibration of those men and women of those times was high enough to translate and process the wisdom in those tombs. That consciousness is not active today. So study the hieroglyphs backwards and forwards, but until we get into the frequency and the vibrational countenance of that time, they're just pyramids. It's just writing on a wall. And that's not to minimize, I'm not trying to minimize, but I'm saying like there's levels to this,
Yes, it's powerful point. Go ahead.
Yeah, I just think, I concur. I mean, it's, again, I suppose it goes back to that, duality is always, like you say, the light, the dark, the shade, there's always going to be that duality, and making that conscious choice to be which frequency of duality you're on. And I just think, again, there gets a point. Look, I know there's a lot of avid readers, and being well versed is really, really important in our community, and that has a lot to do with, I always think that's all has a lot to do with the knowledge that we weren't given, and was removed, and so therefore we have to feel like we're almost playing catch up, because things have been hidden from our view. But I think we are in a particular time now where we have to look at these books in a new way. Yeah. And look at them like, okay, what's implementable, if that's such a word, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Like, how can you implement? Because unless, that's where, when you look at the ancients, they applied their wisdom. Yeah. They do, their knowledge, they applied it, and it turned into wisdom. And we are talking about the wisdom of our ancients because they applied it. If they didn't apply their knowledge, we'd never see a pyramid. Yeah. We have to recognize that they built because they applied. Yeah. And we're at that point now, and this is the crossroads that our people are on right now. It's like, okay, it could be really cool with info, but what actively are you doing?
100%.
Yeah. How actively are you supporting and harmonizing with the community? Are you a help or a hindrance? Because there's a lot of people like that. Yeah. You recognize the importance of, okay, when it all goes off, who are you going to be? Yeah. Your strength of character has to really come through now. This is the most important time in our lifetime. Yeah. For us to engage in the implementation, of what we've read, we've studied, we've cultivated over time. It's great to read a book about plants, but you might need to plant something. Yeah.
For sure.
There's only so much you can read about tomato plant before you have to plant the thing,
Yeah.
And we're at that point where it's about planting those kinds of seeds, metaphorical seeds, and seeing the fruits, because right now we need to be able to see these fruits, in our actions and through our children. Because when we're looking at our children now, we're looking at, okay, we were talking a little bit about earlier in consent and children getting consent. Now you're going to see the fruits of your labor when the children say, well, I'm doing it anyway. Or not. You're going to see who you turned your children into.
Yes.
You're going to see the content of their character, and the content of your character right now is one of the most important things right now. Absolutely. Like who you are at a heart level. What's your heart seat saying? So that's why when I come across your work, I'm like, okay, this is just so aligned. You might say it in a different way to me, but it's so aligned with where I think. Because I'm like, I've always been like, okay, how can we activate that? How can we activate that? It was always, that kind of, maybe it's the kinesthetic in me, but it's always been about the doing. I can stand, I can sit on the stands and, sit in the background, at times. Sure. But at the same time, I recognize, and I think you said something really powerful earlier, we talked about knowing your position. And I think you're right. You talked about like people getting into these, getting into collective situations, but there's a brokenness. And there's a dysfunctionality, and there's an unhealed, and that unhealed dysfunction, and then trying to build something solid, without doing that kind of work on the self is kind of like, it's, that work's got to be done. It has to. It's an emergency that work is done for the next level, for the next dimension, for the next shift, for the next paradigm, whatever people call it. That's frequency, you've got to shed a lot of layers inside on itself. Yeah, we cannot stay the same. You know, it's like turning yourself inside out. Yeah, you have to do the work now. Yeah, there's no wriggle room. There's no hiding. There's no where I can just, you can, but just know people are not carrying you.
Yes, 100%. Hell yeah. I second that. 100%. And to the point that you're making about, you know, the studying and the, you know, it's like, I don't expect people to at this point, especially where we are in the world right now, it's fascinating to me that people are still having this argument about, you know, you're more, no, you're this, you need to call yourself this, don't say the word black, da, 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 da. Like the stuff that I was debating 10 years ago, like we're really, and I get it. There's always a conversation and a place for intellectualism, but it's like, you know, Marcus Garvey did his thing. You know what I'm saying? His legacy is intact. There was the little chubby dude in what's Game of Thrones. He made a comment one time when he was leaving the place where he was studying at. He said, you know, I'm tired of studying the works of other great men.
Yeah.
And that always stood out to me because we have a lot of, particularly our men, right, in the conscious community per se, that are really steeped in studying the great works of other great men and have not stepped into their own personal greatness. And it is a method of avoidance, right? I know because I was having those same conversations with these same brothers 10 years ago. Now, if you want to battle me about the word God and that God spelled backwards is dog, have at it. You know what I'm saying? Like I'm talking about, you know what I'm saying? Genetically modified foods and scientific.
Yeah. Have it. Have your thing. Do your thing. Yeah.
Go for it, bro. You know what I'm saying? Like used to Noble Drew Ali versus Marcus Garvey. For real?
It's not. You know,
I completely stop for a second here, right? But just going back to my original point, right? You don't just be more God than devil. Be more light than darkness today. Right?
Yeah.
Just be more God than devil today. Think more positively than negatively today, right?
And just to add to that, keep increasing it.
Yeah, every day.
Yeah. Keep increasing that. Yeah? Because it's like, you know, what do they say? It takes 30 days to change a habit. Yeah. So if you got like, you know, it's like going to the gym. It's like developing a muscle. You've got to have and once you get into it and it's habitual, then you almost catch up with that. Absolutely. Yeah, your subconscious mind catches up with that physical mind. Yeah, it will catch up. But if you're not actively doing that and you're in a place where you're I choose to be how I want to be because I'm above duality. Yeah. Yeah. I think, again, humility is a lot of that is missing. In this accountability conversation, right? Go ahead.
No, I was just going to bring in this question, but I don't want to neglect the chat.
Yeah, go ahead.
And we've got Brother James. Oh, by the way, we're gonna be approaching the close of the show soon, family. So if you've got any questions, get them in very quickly.
We are going to talk a little bit about your work, your book. Don't worry, we're getting there. We're having so much fun. Yes, the question. Go ahead.
Question regarding the jab and those that took it. Must we not try to avoid being divided and conquered and separating family? If a family member took it, must we not still support each other?
I'll let you answer, girl. Go for it. You're the guest, girl.
First of all, it depends on where you are in your own personal development, right? I can have a conversation with a family member, and my family don't really, you know what I mean? This is not really an issue for me because everybody knows where I stand. And I think people avoid the conversation with me because it could potentially change their mindset, right? But the first thing is it depends on where you are in your mental and spiritual awareness. If you're strong enough to maintain your frequency on a day-to-day basis and still be amongst your family members, and that be a continual conversation at the dinner table, at the birthday party. You know what I mean? If you are strong enough in your personal resonance to continue to engage your family and support them, absolutely. And just a caveat, you know, the compassion element has to always be there with our family, with the world, because then we become like the people that we're trying to, you know, that we're about getting ready to destroy, this world that we're getting ready to destroy. And I'm seeing a lot of people becoming like the people that we say that we don't want to be, right? So the compassionate piece has to always be there off top, right? So handle your family and your loved ones with compassion, but also be mindful of your personal resonance, where you are in your mind and heart. And if you start to feel like it's too much, then you disengage, right? The other thing that we have to, you know, in Buddhism, they talk about non-attachment, right? And I always took an issue with that, because it was like, you know, what do you mean non-attached? Like, I love my son. I'll ride to the end of the earth. I'm always going to be attached to my son, right? But once you get a proper spiritual perspective and awareness on what that really means, you have to let people be who they are. You have to accept their choices, right? Abraham Hicks says human beings are the only species that can choose slavery. We have to be conscientious and mindful, James, that there are people that we love that are choosing slavery, right? So how do you engage a mindset? And I'm not saying like intentionally, yeah, sign me up for the cotton fields. You know what I mean? No, we're talking about the way that we're operating and moving in this world. But we also have to be self-aware and to be mindful that there are people among us that are choosing slavery, right? And then, are they trying to choose slavery for you? Right? Because if you're trying to choose slavery for me, blood or not, we're gonna have a problem. It's only so many conversations I'm gonna have with you about me doing something that I have been clear. There's absolutely no wiggle room in this for me. None. Right? So how many times are we gonna have that conversation? After like one, maybe two? So when I said before, two opposing frequencies can't occupy the same space at the same time, we need to understand that it's going to require us to be up here, energetically, frequency wise, how we're thinking, how we're feeling, right? It's going to require for you to be here to make it through what's happening with your mind and your heart intact. Up here. Now, family's here. Family's here. Family's here. If family's down here, you're not going to be able to stay up here to engage down here. You see what I'm saying? You might come visit, have a conversation. If you can do it and stay up here, cool. But if you keep having that conversation with the people down here, and every time you have the conversation, you look up, you know what I'm saying? And now you're more and more frustrated about their choices, their decisions, etc. It's a personal decision, and it's a personal process based on your family, right? How steeped into this madness are you? How fear-based are you? If I'm talking to somebody and they're quoting CNN verbatim, and everything I'm saying, it's like, no, I know the real numbers, not the numbers they're telling you, the real numbers. And it is in America, for instance, the system that reports deaths that are attached to the you know what. The system as of today, as of last Friday, the number was 13,500 and something, right? Mm. That represents between 1 to 10% of the actual number. I'm talking about actual people that have actually died from getting the you know what, right? So if I'm talking to you and I tell you this, you say, well, where'd you get that information? And then I showed you where I got the information. And then you still decide that that's what you want to do, or you still try to promote that agenda. Now I'm starting to look at you and wonder which team you're playing for. You understand what I'm saying? So everybody has to be assessed and analyzed for what team they're playing for. And when I say what team you're playing for, I'm talking about, are you standing up for truth and righteousness, or are you promoting the overall agenda? Are you guiding people because you don't want to lose your job? or are you guiding people because you know what's in their best health and well interest, right? So you gotta be balanced in assessment in how you are dealing with family and friends. Just for me personally, I am very staunch and clear, especially when it comes to my son. So it's only so much leeway you're gonna get. We only gonna play footsie so many times before I bring out a sword. You understand what I'm saying? That goes for my family. And when it comes to my son, and I've had a conversation with my son about people in our family, he's 18, trying to, you know what I'm saying? Convince him, well, you 18 now. Really? I love you, but please don't become an enemy. So that's the answer to the question, brother. And like going back to what I said about our people in Africa, how we were loving and welcoming, but we weren't shrewd. We weren't disciplined, right? Now's the time to be loving and welcoming when necessary, but also very shrewd and disciplined.
Discerning comes to mind. Discerning,
for sure.
Discerning, yeah. You know, love them where they, you know, spend time with them, or if you want to spend time with them, if you do, but you know, just be mindful that, you know, the mindset is where you're at, and if people can respect it, you can harmonize, in different ways. You know, you can harmonize. My family, I was out yesterday with my sister, went to go to my grandmother's grave yesterday, and you know, we just had a conversation, and I just told her straight, you know, like, she knows exactly where I stand, and they know, don't have a conversation with me about it, because it's not going to happen, and so they just know, it's like, if you want me in your life, they also know on some level that this is what I come with. I come with this information and this awareness. So I recognize that. And I think it's not about, you're right. It has to be, there needs to be a balance, again, about compassion, the humility. But an awareness and a discernment.
Yes. Perfect. Perfect.
So, I think, look, I wanted to, if you want to say anything, Shaka, before we talk about her sister's work.
Go ahead, sis.
So I wanted to, you know, I know, look, you're doing some fantastic work out here, and I know you've done some workshops and stuff, and your recent book, which is 2021, right? So it's recent, your recent book here, Keys to Womanhood. What every young lady and woman should know, ZaZaAli. And I think the important thing is letting us know a little bit about that book, you know, why you chose this kind of right now to produce this book as well.
Well, I'm mad at myself because it's in the other room. I don't know why I don't have it sitting in front of me, but you know, there's been a lot of talk about the age of Aquarius, right? And we are that age, that era is being ushered in now. And long story short, we are moving into a time dispensation, whereas, you know, we've been in a reality that's been ruled by, you know, patriarchy, even though I don't like that word, and very linear minded reality, Europeans, you know, in the reality that they've built on this planet. And we're moving back into a time dispensation now where we have to get back to the collective consciousness, first shall be last, last shall be first, that whole thing. And you said doing several times, you know, activating the knowledge that you have, right? And then moving on it. This shift in consciousness that we're moving into is going to be more about being than doing, right? And so learning how to, you know, we talk about your soul's work, your life's calling, right? Getting into a space where you make your internal focus your priority, so you can figure out what you're supposed to do, opposed to just doing what you're doing and then figuring it out all out later. That's what I mean when I say doing versus being, you know, being frequency minded, right? But in this shift in age of Aquarius, whereas I know that this is the time where women are supposed to regain our status, so to speak, right? Not become rulers of men, but regain our status as the co-creators of God, as, you know, powerful divine beings, which we have not been under the scope of this world. So now here we are supposed to be moving into this shift, and all you see is twerking and pee-popping and, you know what I mean? The madness that we see of our women and the way that we're carrying ourselves online is just absolutely insane.
Well, let's not forget the crate challenge. Someone mentioned that earlier.
Oh my God. Yeah, everybody in the world is protesting, and America is doing crate challenges. We're in the twilight zone. This is the twilight zone for sure. That's what I say. It's hard to just walk outside and just because some days when I'm online, I want to like proverbially slap a lot of people. Do a nice little technological punch in your throat real quick, right? So now is the time when women are supposed to be resuming our positions of authority over ourselves and thereby over our planet. And now this massive campaign for stripper culture, right, is being infringed upon the world. Imagine that. But so I was like, wait a minute, because I stopped focusing so much on men and what they were doing and what they weren't doing, and realized that a lot of the issues our men have stem back to women.
Controversial statement, this.
Oh, it's okay. I'm well affiliated with controversy. Thank you. Well, one of the things I talk about in the workbook is the bond between mother and child. That is the first stage setting that establishes how men interact with women around the world, right? So, and then I also, because I know my power as a woman, because I know how valuable and how sacred women are, and then I'm looking at the condition of women in the world, and it's like, nah, I'm tired of getting played. I'm tired of being, the second fiddle, you know what I mean, being on the planet. Everywhere you look, women. There's a section in the workbook where I talk about, abuse in women. And I actually had to go back to the table and redo the workbook because I left a lot out because I wanted to paint this picture of, balance in men, women. I don't want to challenge men too much. I want this to be like a loving, cohesive, but I felt disingenuous. And so I went back to the drawing board and put a whole bunch of information about abuse and sexual abuse and emotional abuse and the reality that women are going through in the world. There's a 3 graphs in the book that show basically women aren't safe and protected anywhere in the world. There's not one city, one state, one country, one continent in the world that can say, yeah, this is a place where women can come and have refuge. The numbers of rape are low, if any. The numbers of murder of women by, family members and spouses, there's none of that. There's no women in our country that are being, there's no girls in our country that are being sexually molested. There's no molestation there's nowhere in the world. You know what I'm saying? So why would God not be punishing this world right now? Why would there not be a divine judgment right now? I gave you a vessel to reproduce yourself on this planet. And you have dragged her and demeaned her and destroyed her. And she has destroyed herself in every possible way. You see what I'm saying? So when I look at the young me, all of the things that the women were around me, my mother wasn't in my life, but there were women in my family. There were so many jewels that got left off the table along the way. One of the things in the opening section, I have a section that says what I wish another woman would have told me. And I laid out bullet points. And one of the things that I said is that we don't need to be involved with every man that we meet. Most of the men that women are involved with from later teens to 20s to 30s, you look back at those relationships and been like, yeah, I should have, you know what I'm saying? He should have just been a homie. You know what I mean? So like, yeah, for real. I know you know, sis. That's
a lot of recognition, bro. That's a lot of recognition.
Yeah. But I'm saying like, there's a science called sexual transmutation, right? And we emphasize this for men that are studying this stuff, not most men, men that are knowledgeable about this, right? Taoism talks about this, right? But what if women actually practice sexual transmutation? Meaning, I got this brother Shakara. He's my brother, my homie. We got a great relationship. When I talk to him, we build. We talk about power. We talk about economics. We talk about everything, right? And it is sustaining me as a woman to get masculine energy, masculine guidance, masculine wisdom. But I don't have to just because I'm getting this from this man now take this into a sexual realm because now it's emotional. Now it's all kind of other stuff. And you know what I'm saying? I should just enjoy and appreciate and value this relationship with this king.
True.
And be able to pull from his energy and not muddy the waters, so to speak, right? Mm-hmm. So learning about transmutation and how the male-female dichotomy, we need to have relationships with men that we don't have relationships with.
Yeah.
We need to invest as women, as a culture, reinvest in nurturing and building up relationships with men that we're not in relationships with.
Sure.
Because when we talk about male-female relationships, oh, he did this and hey, she did. It's all based on intimacy, intimate relationships, right? Yeah. There's a whole nother aspect of us to learn each other and experience each other beyond just that sexual element, right? Yes. So that's one of the things that one of the bullet points, so to speak, a jewel, so to speak, that I wish another woman had told me. You don't have to get involved with a man to experience him, right? Mm-hmm. And to have value. So that I broke the 42 laws of Ma'at down. I broke the masculine and feminine, the yin and yang perspectives, understanding your yin power and then understanding your yang power, right? Mm-hmm. We don't want strong women. Well, tell that to the women who came over here in ships and threw their babies off the boats. That's a yang concept. Women in America have had to be yang specific, right? If you're raising a child in a war zone, please don't tell me anything about not being strong. Mm-hmm. If you're a woman alone raising a child in a war zone, what can we do with this conversation about Black women need to stop being so strong? Really, bro? That's your you see what I'm saying? So
yeah. And don't forget submit. And don't forget to submit, don't be strong, just submit.
Put your slippers on and go in the kitchen and cook me some.
I've been having a lot of battles with brothers over this obsession with submission. Recently, and I'm so sorry because I'm on duty working with some young people, and I'm gonna need to run. Right, it wasn't cool, and leave you to it. I'm so sorry that I'm fighting this point, but listen, I'm just gonna say this. Yeah, there's a good presentation by Brother Amos Wilson where he's talking about Black male-female relationships online, and he asks some critical questions. Yeah, in like. Outside of just the information, the questions that he's asking are ones that I feel like we need to pay more attention to because it will reframe the whole male-female combative dynamic that we have operating right about now. And I agree with Zaza completely. Our male-female relationships represent, what we focus on represents less than 1%. It's very myopic. Yes. We're not developing holistically. So because we're not as men, and I'm focusing on men because I'm a man, we're not developing our manhood in complement to women in general, rather than that we just want to have sex with, right? We're not looking at our manhood in relation to being sons to our mothers, brothers to our sisters, right? You know what I'm saying? And friends, and them kind of things there. So we're focused on transactional money versus sex, as in the idea that men control access to money and women control access to sex, right? As though this is an immutable law of the universe, right? You know what I'm saying? That we are now, you know what I mean? It's a madness, that is not creating any more functionality among us. So I see where you're going. I'm going to leave it. You know what I'm saying? So
I'm trying to maintain.
Yes.
A certain level of calm because I really want to react to what you're saying, respond. Right?
That was it.
First of all, Black men, let me just let you know in no uncertain terms, you have not produced enough quality men to be continuously having this conversation about submission.
It's the truth.
Oh,
you have
mic drop. Oh gosh.
It's the truth.
You have not, and let me be clear, Brother Shaka, right? Because I know some kings.
Yes, right? No, definitely.
I know some kings, so I'm qualified to make this statement.
Yes.
Black men globally, you have not produced enough quality men to continuously have this conversation about submission.
But sis, I bet you those kings are not obsessed with submission.
No, they're not.
No,
100%.
they're not.
But you can be a good man and not be a king. I think we've kind of, and some of these men are not even good men, but I think we've kind of, because we like the language, everybody's a queen, everybody's a king. No, that's not how it works. You're either born into a monarchy, you're born into royalty, or you marry in, right? I was born a queen. You know what I'm saying? And people are looking for my king to validate my queendom. But I was born a queen. You understand what I'm saying? I read this beautiful post. Somebody sent it to me where a sister was talking about, basically talking about Black men and how they need to qualify themselves to lead. She was saying, you got to be qualified to lead me, right? I'm not looking for a leader. I'm looking for a companion. I'm not saying if the car gets broke down and it needs a new fuel pump,
you're a job that.
You don't have the knowledge to go to AutoZone and buy a new fuel pump and handle it without, right? I'm not talking about that. I'm not saying if Joe Blow down the street, is disrespectful towards me, that I'm not going to come and get you to stand the ground to make sure that this. No, I'm not talking about that. I'm not looking for a leader.
Yes.
And as women, we got to get out of this mindset. You come through the door. Well, let's sit down and talk about who's going to lead who. And truth is my leader.
That's it.
Submit to truth.
That's it.
You be the truth. We don't have to have a conversation about submission.
That's true. That's it.
Now,
so listen, sis, Shakara's going to leave. We're going to stay on.
Just to apologize again. I'm on duty with some young people. Yes, I would. That's the only reason.
You poked the bear, and now you want to leave.
No, I did say. You know what? I'll be honest with you, sis. On this particular subject, there's far more that I'm going to agree with you on than disagree with you on. I promise. Yeah, I promise. So, but I am on duty, so I do have to that. But it's been a pleasure, my sister. And you stay blessed, and I'm sure the rest of the conversation is going to go very, very well. All right. So peace to the family. And
all right, beloved. Okay. All right. You carry on. Yes, sis. You're not easy, little girl. You're not easy.
I have really been pondering this. Like, how do we get to this place where one sex is supposed to lead or rule over the other? I mean, and the only place you can really tie it back to is religion. And most of the brothers that are talking about submission and religion don't even believe in religion. So please help me.
Well, you make some really valid points, and I had this discussion. It's really powerful because you said a lot of things, and when you talked about having your having these relationships with men who are not intimate, and I remember doing some personal development work, and it was a Dr. DeMartini from The Secret, and I went to one of his trainings, and I remember he said something really interesting, and it really stuck with me. It stuck with me for many, many years, and it's all about the importance of having what you need around you. He was talking about being single, and he was saying, I'm single and I'm cool with it and I'm fine with it. And, people couldn't quite understand. Like, why would you be so single, And he was talking about, look, what you want in people is around you. What you want in that one person is around you in other people.
Yes.
You don't need to get everything from one person.
Yes.
Assume that, everyone, that one person's got to be all. And that's usually the problem.
Yes.
So when you get into relationships, you have a conversation and the person doesn't want you to have friends with a female or friends with males. But if you're balanced, again, if you've got that duality and you've got that balance, you're going to have that polarity at different times so that you allow yourself to, not have somebody because if you have everybody all be everything, by default, you become needy.
Absolutely.
or that person becomes needy because they want it all in one. So they'll say like, okay, you've got to be everything. Yeah, you can't see that person, or you can't communicate with them, or they're intimidated by your male relationship or your female relationship, depending on who it is. Yeah. And so I'll never forget that. And for me, when I've been in my singledom, I've always drawn on that. I mean, that was 15, 20 years ago. And I've always drawn on that knowledge because it's like, you know, you can have that. And it's very true what you're saying about that obsession. You know, Shaka was talking about that obsession with submission. Yeah. That conversation comes up with a certain mindset.
Yeah.
Men. There's other men out here that don't need it. In fact, some men will say things like, you know what, you know what, I know one brother in particular who's an alpha male. And he is, you know, they say alpha males only want a feminine woman and stuff like that. But there are alpha males who want an alpha female. Yeah. And they want a woman who can handle her business when it hits the fan. Yeah. You can't, what men need to understand in this day and time that I see, is that we're in a war. Yeah. This is not the time for me to start making daisy chains, bro. Okay. This is not it.
Listen.
Call me 20 years ago, maybe. But right now, submission, and also this conversation submission. And I just want to personally dispel this myth too. And I know you're on the same page. I'm speaking for a lot of the masses here, yeah? Women, wait for it, brothers. Women only submit to men they trust.
Yeah.
They do not submit to any and every man. So you can know women don't just submit to every man just because she's feminine. Yeah. You earn that right. Yeah. That myth,
can I say something about that?
Go for it.
There's a lot of women out here that are submitting to unrighteous men.
I know.
A lot of women, when I was traveling this country with the conscious community and everybody looked like us and it was all Pan-African RBG.
I've been there. I've done it. I've been guilty.
When I would have side conversations with the women that were there, or when they would send me messages afterwards and be like, I couldn't really talk to you because I was with my man, right? Or I had a sister email me in a closet in New York crying, begging me to call her because her dude who was in so-and-so community had been abusing her and she wouldn't talk to all of the men and nobody wouldn't do anything. So we've got plenty of women and we've got plenty of history of women submitting to the demonic element in our men, right? This is, oh God, girl, you just
listen. Open the can now.
One of the things that I talked about in the Keys to Womanhood workbook,
yes,
is for young women in particular, any man that's trying to separate you from your family or separate you from the people that you love, from your original world, right, does not love you. You can say it's healthy, it's unhealthy. That's not love, because real love is going to inspire you to be your highest and best self. And if you're cutting yourself off from the people that you love, from your support system, you're not being inspired to your highest and best self, right? I was having a conversation with a good friend of mine not too long ago, and we were talking about polygamy. And he was telling me that most of the men that he knows are not monogamous. It's natural for a god or a king to want to be polygamous, right? This is what he's telling me. So I listened to him. He might be listening now. I'm listening to him, right? And I'm letting him, and so I said, well, the issue is that a lot of our men that are kings or godly are only choosing women based on a certain level of requirements. It's usually physical, right? Sometimes it's, hey, listen, this is what it is. I'm polygamous, out the door. Can you handle this? If she can handle this, okay, now she's qualified in a certain regard, right? Most men are not choosing women based on their mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical self, right? So when you say an alpha male only wants a feminine woman, well, that's his physical self. That's his mental self, right? Because he has a choice, a preference, right? What does a feminine woman have to do with your emotional well-being? Does being a feminine woman, meaning you're dainty and you cook,
pick flowers all day,
barefoot and pregnant, right? That doesn't mean that you're emotionally a sound mind, right? What, you know, a spiritually minded woman. If you're dealing with a woman that's operating on a high level of consciousness, she's not going to walk through the door and you start giving off these lists of things that you have to be, or you have a woman that is of sound mind and body. You, first of all, you're not even going to attract her. So
True.
the women that you are running into and the women that you are attracting to are on your frequency. So these men think that they have to have multiple women, right? Because they're never satisfied. Well, you're never satisfied because you're not choosing based on your mental, spiritual, emotional, and physical self. You're not choosing women that are going to help you cultivate all those aspects of yourselves. So you're already limited in where the nature of the relationship can go, right? So, and then on top of that, right, let's just put the who you're with, how many women, how many men, etc. As a human being, you only have so much energy. I can only bring so many people into the fold of my reality because I am so focused on my well-being. I'm so focused on being a well-rounded human being, my life's work, what I'm supposed to be doing, right? And mind you, the times, right? And I got a son, right? And I got people all over the world that rely on me energetic. I only have so much energy to give a man off top, right? So he's going to have to complement my work. He's going to have to complement my mind. He's going to have to complement me spiritually. He's going to have to be emotionally mature. We're going to have to be on the same plane as far as the physical reality, right? Do I have time for 2 or 3 of those? If I'm the master of myself, right? So this is for a woman and a man. If you as a man are aspiring to master yourself, how many other women can you really bring into the fold and make that an actual reality?
I hear that. Listen, I'm gonna take a listen. Take a look at these comments right now. So we got James. Oh, I do not understand where this notion of submission comes from. Only the version that is mutual between those in relationship and only to an extent is natural. And he says, and he goes on to say, my wife is Zulu. Submission is not part of her vocabulary.
Yeah, baby.
Like, when a man talks submission, that's a red flag to me.
Hell yeah.
That's a red flag. I mean, there was a time, don't get me wrong, I went through the whole, we all went, a lot of us went there, especially the conscious women. We all went there. A lot of us went there. I went there, submit to the wrong one. We did that. Yeah. And we learned from it. And I think, submission is there is a time to be submissive in a way which is still enhancing. And I think submission is just the wrong word. Yeah, I just think it's the wrong word for what it is you want. You want a woman, okay, that's in her feminine. You want a woman, but there are men, when a man is really in his highest alpha, provide, protect self, women naturally, we naturally, our guard, in a sense, can come down. It's not to say it's completely down, but it can come down and we can rest in our feminine. Yeah. A lot of the time we can't rest, especially in the times that we're in right now. We're not always in a position, especially now, to rest in our feminine when there's a psychological war going on. Yeah. Absolutely. We can't just be like that all the time. Yeah. We're going to be no use to you. This is what the men of now have to understand, the submission conversation. I think we just need to just squash it today. Yeah. Because I just think at this point in time, that is not what's required. It's not required for you to need that at this time in this war zone. Yeah, when it's going to get heated. This is not the time to want that. This is the time to know that your partner, your mate, your future mate can survive. Yeah. Do you see what I mean? And I think femininity, if you are on the same page as her, thinking that, the mindset is balanced, it's complementary, it's your complementary opposite. Yeah. Understanding that, when we look at the power of polarity, we understand that there'll be times when he will be, for him to feel yeah, any level of emotion will require him to be in some level of feminine state. That's not taken away from him. That is enhancing himself and understanding he's a dual being, yeah. And it's that recognition of duality inside of us all. You know, no one was born overly feminine. No one was born overly masculine. It's cultivated. Yeah. And I think that's where we kind of need to get, especially in the times that we're in, when people are still talking about this submission conversation and how Black women are too strong and what have you. If you're stronger than me, or if you're stronger than these women on a mental level, you don't have to worry about that on an emotion. You don't have to worry about it because naturally she can rest in it. Yeah. If you're only the ego wants submission.
Exactly. And you said that very, very well. And just to kind of put all of this in context, if you've ever been in love before, man or woman, that is the ultimate submission. When you're in love with another human being, you know what I'm saying? When you can't do anything without thinking about them, when you'll, fly across the world, or, you know what I mean? Like do whatever has to be done to be with this person. Like that is pure, positive, righteous submission. It's not for women. It's not for men. You know what I'm saying? It's coming into the fullness of what we are capable of if we are uninhibited, right? And properly loved, right? And in tune, in alignment and in tune with who we really are, right? So it's really perplexing to me. I really see how our men, and just men in general, and this was another reason behind the workbook. It's like we really bought into there's one of the species is greater than the other. We run our communities like that. Like I am one of the biggest proponents and supporters of Black men. I have continuously uplifted, researched, like did everything in my power to raise to do my part in helping to raise our men up, right? But if we're spiritual beings having a human experience, which we are, I'm not a woman. I'm a woman while I'm here.
That's right. This is just your vessel. This is just the vessel that you chose to come in this form, in this day, in this time, in this body, with this color.
This is the suit and the experience that I chose. But please understand, when I leave this physical realm, I'm not going to be concentrating or thinking about, in a God consciousness and a God awareness. Do you know how minuscule this conversation is? And yes, we're in the physical world. We are doing what we have to do, so it's the balance of it. But have you ever heard the sun tell a palm tree to submit?
Right.
Have you ever seen the moon tell the waves of the ocean, you better submit to me? No, the moon just does what it's supposed to do. The sun just does what it's supposed to do. Right? As long as the sun is doing what it's supposed to do, everybody's reacting the way they're supposed to reacting, dying, living, growing, expanding. So imagine how frivolous and insane it is for men who have a natural inclination to be leaders. They have a natural inclination to be rulers. I understand the importance of the masculine perspective. Men should be more masculine. Women should be more feminine. But it also depends on the nature of the environment, right? We need women that are in the hood to have a higher level of masculinity so that they can guide their children the right way so they can survive, right? We need men that are single parents that don't have a woman in the household, that are raising children and raising daughters, especially, to be more feminine, in touch with their feminine selves, right? We need men who are teaching women. And we have a lot of men now that want to be teachers of women, but have absolutely no connection to their feminine selves, right? So if I teach men, which I do, there's a language and an energy that I have to use. Sometimes it's more feminine. Sometimes it's more masculine. I had a call with a client a couple of weeks ago. I had to really get into some nitty gritty conversation with him. And then I later was like, are you okay? Are we good? But like, no, I had to go auntie mode with him, right? I'm saying all of this to say, this conversation is so frivolous. It's so every time I hear myself saying it, I die a little bit more. Like,
yeah, well, I'm hoping this conversation is dead today. Don't come on this platform talking about submission. It's not happening here. Okay, I'm just letting everybody know. Yeah.
Really let me just say this. Really, what it is, the unconscious and subconscious reality of it is that our men have been in submission to another man for a long time. Not consciously, not intentionally, maybe sometimes. Our men have been forcibly, most of the time, in submission to another man in another culture.
Absolutely.
So they want to resume their
projection.
They want to resume their level of power in some form or fashion, right? So for a male, not a king, not a good man, but for a male, it is important for him to have submission in his little piece of the earth, right? So he can be dominated and ruled, but you're trying to rule women the way white men have ruled you.
Listen, I cannot, if you knew the conversation I only had about 2 days ago, I had a conversation about this with another brother, yeah, and he's an alpha and he gets it. So I didn't even have to really go there. But I say, this is the thing, yeah. A lot of our brothers are having these conversations about, she's a queen and, women are rulers and women with goddess and all of these kind of wonderful things that they say. But, we have to understand that a lot of our brothers are still, they come from a patriot white. If you're talking about white supremacists, white supremacist mindset, yeah, they're just in dark skin, yeah. They are operating, a lot of them are trying to oversee our sisters and micromanage how we be, yeah, in society, saying that saying that they're not patriarchal, but they're operating as patriarchal. They're the first to shout about white supremacy, but they have white supremacist behavior.
Yeah.
On their own. Yeah. And I heard something really powerful this week. It was the most powerful thing I heard all week long. And it said the problem is that there are, a lot of the issues in our community is that a lot of us are just replacing the oppressor.
Yeah.
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 You've got an oppressor. And all you've done is you don't know how to manage being oppressed. Yeah. You haven't got yourself to a particular point of power and mastery. So the first place you're going to look is in your inner circle, sanctum, yeah, and look for it right directly. And the easiest form of oppression is female.
Yes.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So we have to look at the fact that there are a lot of there's an oppressive nature going on. A lot of our brothers, I love my brothers. They know, we spoke earlier about how beautiful, it would be for our brothers to learn some of the skills that I have. I'm all in. Yeah, I love our brothers, but I have to tell the truth.
Yes, we do.
Yeah. We have to tell the truth because no one's going to tell you. Some people are not going to have a mother who's going to know this. Some people are not going to have a sister, friend who knows this. We have to be honest and aware with you, teach you. That's our feminine gift, to teach you these subtle nuances. Yeah, so that your children don't do it. It's not a habit because you can't break anything. Yeah, you can't break any cycles. Yeah, if you are just a replacement oppressor. That's what I'm saying.
Yeah, why?
Somebody saying shots fired.
Yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. You have the right guest. Frantz Fanon said black skin, white masks. Right. Here's the thing.
Right.
A lot of our people have never met a real queen. We love Harriet Tubman. Could we actually have dealt with a real Harriet Tubman in this day and age?
Okay.
Could you actually have dealt with a Yaa Asantewaa? we love to Sojourner Truth. Could you really have handled that type of thing? Because you got the poster on your wall, but you know
it's true. I can't even lie. I can't even argue.
So let's put it in context, right? Because we have man, we have woman, we have king, we have queen, we have God, we have goddess, right? So these are ranks. These are levels of initiation, stages of development, right? When you start talking queen talk and king talk, that means that your behavior and how you move in the world affects other people around you, and that your movement has to be predicated on how it's going to affect the whole, right? So if you call yourself a queen, you understand that twerking online, you don't have sexual freedom or because you don't love your body, but because I understand that if I put a video up online twerking, right, that my audience is going to go in 10 different directions, right? I'm going to start attracting a whole lot of different energy and intent. My space is clean. My social media spaces are clean. I have to deal with trolls and all that type, but for the most part, I have an understanding with my followers. If I start twerking and posting my behind crack online, I'm going to attract a whole different type of energy, a whole different type of experience online, right? But I'm a queen. So I understand that I have a responsibility to my brothers and the men that follow me. I'm not trying to keep you locked in your lower chakra. So that's why I don't do that. I'm trying to get you up here. I'm trying to tap into your third mind. That's why you only see a certain part of me. It's not because I don't love my body. It's not because I'm not a proud woman, that I'm not in control of my sexuality. That's kindergarten talk. When I hear women having those kind of conversations and they're doing panel discussions and talking about the power of, that's kindergarten talk. Go ahead and have that, but don't involve queen with it. Same thing for kings. If you are a king or aspiring to be a king, it's not just about you. It's not just about your family. You have a broader role, a broader responsibility to a collective, not just your sons and daughters. Now, if you're a good man, then it's just about your wife and your children. That's to be commendable. We need good men all around. If we had good men all around, we wouldn't need so many kings. You see what I'm saying? But let's be clear. There's a difference between a good man and a king. When you step into king shoes, that means that you are accountable, that you are thinking for, moving for, right? A broader consciousness. You rule for the collective, right? Now, when you start talking God and goddess, that means self-rulership. Self-mastery, self-rulership, right? That's a whole different plan. But you can't be a goddess without a queen mindset. You can't become God without passing through the phase of king. See, we've got it misconstrued now, because we got not even good men. We got males online talking king talk. We got males online talking about high value men. Kings should be talking about high value men. You see what I'm saying? So I think that we've kind of skipped some steps and some stages here. And we kind of need to back up a little bit. If you don't want to be responsible to the whole, then I understand the twerking. If you don't want to be responsible to the whole, then I understand the Playboy Mac Daddy mentality. A conscious pimp. We've seen our number of those.
Word. I got a comment here, beautiful comment. Those queens, meaning our Asantewa, our Nzinga, our Harriet Tubmans, those queens would absolutely be slated in this time.
Yes,
exactly. It's true. A queen holds herself to a higher royal level. That energy is clear once you get in contact with a true king and queen. And that's the thing. That's what we, it comes back down to, a lot of that comes back down to emotional intelligence. Yeah. When we do that kind of, that work on ourselves, that, again, we talked about the vessel. We're just borrowing this.
Yes.
Yeah. So exactly. So if we're just borrowing this, it's like making use of this suit, then making use of it, and productive use of it. Living a quality of life, if you like, through it. Yeah. And having the best, the highest frequency relationships from it. What we
sis, and let me say this, going back to what we're talking about before, like the avoidance, right? While I'm
Mhm.
here, I'm a woman. I'm not walking around like I'm God having this human experience. I'm not going to address the issues of women because this is beneath me. No, while I'm here, I'm in it. I'm a woman.
In the thick of it. You're in the thick of being a woman.
And I'm very conscientiously aware that if we as women can change the nature of how we are operating in the world today, 5-10 generations from now, it's our frequency is still going to be alive. You know what I'm saying? So I just, I listen, people, family, Africans around the world, melanated people, indigenous people around the world. The challenge that we are up against right now, the severity and the gravity and the weight of this moment, I cannot underscore it. Whatever you think is going on, I can assure you it's 10 times worse than that. I'm talking about the intentions of the people, the powers that be. With all due respect, let's put the conversation about submission. Let's put the conversation, all of these things that have their place in the broader scope of shaping and molding culture on the back burner of us for a second, because our culture and our livelihood and our people, everything's at stake right now. Everything's at stake right now. So we need to kind of pivot away from these little innuendos that we've been focusing on while still loving one another, while still having those, interactions and intimate relationships. I have connections with men that I have a responsibility to that I'm not involved with, right? So I'm already actively working on righting the wrongs. I need men to understand that. So you're listening, you feeling some type of way. Oh, she's a Black feminist. Don't disrespect me. First of all, don't disrespect me. Feminism is child's play. I've spent my whole entire life fighting for and working on behalf of Black men. And I have an 18-year-old son. He's a young man. So I will never side with any agenda that does not support and bring men into the fold, right? So
100%.
Right?
100%.
But like where we are right now in the scope of the world, family, we need people that are studying the science of this technology that they're using in these you-know-whats, because it is technology. It's not what you think it is, right? We need people that are growing food, that are tilling the earth, that are studying the soil, not just studying the soil, but understanding that they're spraying tens of trillions of metal particulates in our upper atmosphere. It's in all the food. It's in all of the water. It's in all of the soil. So we need people in agriculture to not only grow food, but to also study the science of what they're doing so that we can learn how to use the earth to neutralize it, right? That's a different level of awareness than just growing food, right? Because now you got to find seeds, and then you got to find seeds that are healthy. Not just seeds anymore. Seeds don't even look the same they used to look. If you look at lemons and you see those little retarded looking seeds, right? So we need that. We need people that do spiritual work, right? Healers that can help people get out of that broken phase, and that can help people to guide them through this insanity that we're experiencing. And the insanity is going to get worse, right? We need people that can sit down with teachers and healers and leaders and help them to come back so they can go out into the world and do what needs to be done, right? We need builders. Everybody's talking about, not everybody, but I'm seeing a lot of people talking about going back to Africa. Can you build a house? What do you do when you get to Africa? Do we know how to build cities? Do we know how to build infrastructure? Do we understand?
I had this conversation just the other day. I have 3 sons. So I just had a conversation. We're having this conversation about, look, the times we're in, et cetera, et cetera. I'm talking about a trade. Like, it's all great, it's nice to be on social media and all these kinds of, but do you have a trade? Yeah. Can you build something that's got longevity? Are you needed? Can you see a need and fill a need?
What is your value? What are you bringing to the table?
If everything crashes, all the internet crashes, all the systems go down, what do you bring to the table?
Absolutely.
And that's what we have to understand, our deeper knowledge, our holistic knowledge, our awareness of self. Who are we really when we're not all these titles, identities? Who are we when we peel back the layers? Who are, you know, that unanswerable question, that Buddhist question, who am I? Yeah, like, who are you? And with that who am I response, what do you bring
to the table? 100%. And going back to our original, the point that we made originally, you don't have to cultivate who you are to fit into the scheme of things. No, you need to bring your best self. I don't expect people that are artists or poets to have green thumb. There's a place for artists and poets. We need people right now that have a mindfulness of being able to speak with word and with song and with music to raise their consciousness. Right?
That's right, because that's your healer. That's the healer in you.
That's your
everyone's
purpose, right? So you have more value to me, right? If you're living in your soul's purpose and bringing that to the table, then somebody's putting you in a corner and telling you to plant a tree. Plant a tree because we need trees, but your value is what you bring to your natural soul, right? We gotta get this thing right, because every human being has the right to flourish.
Well, look, if you go back to that question, if you go back to this statement here, when we talk about those queens would absolutely be slated in this time, in that time when they were able to produce those results, we have to understand that they had to be not just a freedom fighter. They were a mother, they were a friend, they were all of these things. They had, you know, flaws and all and different things about their character, but also a, you know, maybe a more potent, more well-developed area in other things. We are flawed beings. And I think we come to a time, especially in this this time that we're in, which is like the attention economy. We have this perception that, you know, perfection is key. And it keeps us, you know, I know we go back to your book, but these things are the things that keep us apart. This kind of divisive nature of, okay, well, your value is you can plant a tree, but like you're saying, if you're a poet, if you're able to raise the vibration of a community,
I'd
rather help them with their coping mechanisms.
I'd rather you have a microphone in the shades, you know, serenading the people in the field that are tilling the ground or that are building the house. If that's your value, you can raise the whole vibration by doing, you know what I mean?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
And listen, while we're, you know, the war is on, right? Spiritual war, whatever. So the war is on. The best way that we can counter the intentions of these people is by standing in our personal power. Personal power. When I listen to people, if I'm listening, are you inspiring my personal power? Because we got a lot of people online that are talking and selling content and putting out information that don't speak to people's personal power at all. They're just acquiring followers. You inspired me to be a follower of you. Thank you. But can you inspire me to my personal power where I can go move out in the world and be my highest and best self? Right? So.
Brave girl. Take a sip.
My tea. Let me get my tea.
That's it. Have your tea, girl. Have your tea. So going back to your book now, why do you think your book at this time is so important and relevant? Because you put it out just now. So I recognize the power of it. It's very
because I'm tired of this as a woman being a second-class citizen. I'm tired of waiting for other people to do what we ourselves could do. You know what I'm saying? I'm very clear right now in this moment in time of my personal power and what I bring to the table and what my role is in my personal life, but in the bigger scheme of what's happening on the planet. The ancestors sent me. I'm clear about that, right? So in looking at the trajectory of everything that's happening, the world needs guidance. The world needs guidance. Is the world getting guidance right now? I don't know. Did I miss something? Do we have powerful men at the forefront that are raising the vibration of the planet? We have pockets. Of course, I don't want to take any, you know, like I said, I know some kings. We have pockets of men that are doing their thing in nuances, right? But the collective consciousness, I don't see men or women, right? The type of language and energy and vibration that needs to be maintained to get us to the point where we need to get. The world needs guidance. Men have had the last 4,000, 6,000, depending on what your timeline is, right? We've been under male leadership, male rulership. Black communities are under male leadership, male rulership. I don't think that's even question. Well, women won't listen. You know, well, that's a separate conversation, right? But I think that women need to change, pivot out of this being in the shadow and kind of waiting to be told what needs to be done, waiting to figure out what the next move is, and into a position of deciding.
And also, I'd say I mean, I'm going to definitely purchase your book, but I can imagine that the book is also an opening for women to, you know, self-validate and not wait for others to validate them.
Yeah,
because that's a lot of that kind of energy that goes on. It's like you said right at the beginning, that, you know, you're validated if you're in a relationship, like you came here with someone.
Yeah. Exactly. And if you didn't,
when you came by yourself through the portal.
Yes, absolutely. And you know, there's other, you know, we talk about like properly respecting men and learning how to cultivate relationships with men, taking responsibility for your own decisions. If you keep running into the same man over and over again, it's probably you. You know what I'm saying? And then also for young girls, like, you know, looking at social media, the bully culture, how girls are conducting themselves online and how it's affecting the male-female dichotomy, how to properly take care of yourself when you start your cycle, right? What is happening in your body when your body is actually flushing all of these toxins out, how to go and buy menstruation supplies, tampons versus pads and all the things that I wish somebody had told me, because my dad was at that point. So I had to figure it out on my own, right? The understanding how your body is working and operating, the anatomy, the importance of how to breathe proper in the era where people, you know what I'm saying, your face is covered and you breathing in poison all day long. Well, there's another aspect to this that you should be aware of. The way you breathe is what controls how clean your blood system is. So if you gotta wear it, then there's some information you need to know, right? Yoga, you know, the power of the mind, frequency, and the law of attraction. Like, I gave a full array of what I feel like women need to know in order to walk righteously into womanhood. For the little girl, there's a little girl in me that never got to properly express and live without fear and without worry and all of that. So here's some tools so you don't have to be hurt.
So you're taking, what you're doing is taking, what I can hear about the book is you're taking women back through it. Yeah. Almost back through, you know, almost like you're taking them through a renewed sense of self, a space where they can heal some of that hadn't been taught to them, that hadn't been given to them. And then they can, it's almost like there's some inner child healing work that's going on. You know, you're getting a second puberty almost. By being able to say, okay, well, someone told you that. Like, every woman has a story as to how her menstrual started and what she was told. Like, every woman, and most women weren't told in the way we would tell our children now.
Exactly.
Yeah, like they weren't informed. They were just like, go get this or do this or not say nothing. Lots of women had different stories. And what I hear about this book is that it allows women to almost nurture themselves back through the stages, for them to get to a point to find that sovereign mind, to engage. But there are some stages and some phases that weren't spoken about, and women are also going through, you know, I mean, I'm not a mother to daughters, but I recognize, you know, my own mother-daughter relationship when I was growing up, and I've worked with families and see different dynamics. And I can, you know, we all go through particular transitions, and a lot of what our parents want to say to us, because there is that tension at times going through your adolescence or going, you know, finding your true voice in your family when you're young. It means that some of those parts of communication were missing and lost in translation. And so I feel what I hear about your book is it's allowing people to almost go back and retrace their steps.
That, and absolutely, for sure. And, you know, sometimes we just got to stop and just breathe and just kind of appreciate who we are and where we are. You know what I mean? Like, I get a lot of women that's like, I have so much work to do. They'll see my videos, binge on my videos, and then be like, I'm realizing how behind I am and how much work I have to do. And I feel so this. And it's like, well, first of all, that's not why I'm putting any of this content out, right? But secondly, we got to stop and just take a moment to just be thankful. You know what I mean? For all the things that we overcome, for all of the, you know, the trials and tribulations, the wins, the losses, the failures, all of that. Like, sometimes we just got to stop and just collect ourselves and just be in a space of gratitude and appreciation for life, for the world, for this planet, you know. And while I loaded with information, and I'm heavy on information constantly, I also wanted to make sure that I let us know, like, we are doing a lot better than what we think.
True.
We got to give ourselves a break. You know what I'm saying? I can't tell you how many people, when I do consultations, right, and people are like, I want to be a life coach. I want to help people. I want to go in my community and help people. And then 15 minutes in the conversation, the women in particular are crying and stressed out and worried. And it's like, so you spend all this time thinking about what you're going to give to the community and how you're not doing enough. And your whole entire world is in shambles and you're neglecting everybody but yourself. And you're still energetically focused on other people. We have been programmed as women to think that we're supposed to sacrifice ourselves for the greater good. And I've seen that in pretty much every woman in my family, the women that I know, my friends, the women that I consult with. So it's like, yeah, we got to get out of this mindset and this reality of sacrificing ourselves for the greater good. No, I'm going to figure out what my sole purpose and my life trajectory is. And I'm going to find a way to apply that to motherhood, to apply that to being a wife, to apply that to my work in the culture and in the community and how I interact with the world. So I think that was the major underlying premise of what I was trying to accomplish with the book.
Excellent. Listen, you've had a fantastic show with you. I have, you know, I would love to have you back again. Listen, girl, you're on. When you come next time, it's on time, okay?
Okay. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. You got it.
Okay. You cannot start 45 minutes late. You cannot do it.
I didn't start 45
I don't know how long it was. It was long.
Oh, okay.
Girl, do not make me go to my messages and get the receipts.
I got you. It's all good, sis. I got you. No worries.
Listen, I loved it. I know that we have loved you having you come on. I want to just share your book title again. What I'm gonna do is because you weren't here at the beginning, so I'm gonna let you know that I'm gonna put you to the back stage. Wait for me there. We'll have a little tea. Wait for me there, and then we'll talk there. But I want to just make sure that people get a sense of who you are. I hope that, you know, if you haven't heard of ZaZaAli before, yeah, you know, you've graced us with your presence, and I really appreciate it, girl. Yeah, it's been beautiful, and it's necessary. The conversation. I will definitely invest in your book. We'd love to see you come back, and lovely. It would be great for you to do some work over here. I can think of an event that we are looking at that I think you'll be perfect for, and so I'm gonna holler about that. Okay. You know, keys to womanhood, what every young lady and woman should know by our ZaZaAli. I just want to go to the comments because I know that people have loved the conversation as well. And we'll take your handle as well today. Give me a second. Yeah. So it's been fabulous. Hey, where's she gone? She gone. Sis, I don't know where you are, but anyway, listen, I can't see you.
I know. I'm sorry. I did this because this is a major epic fail for me. I didn't have this in my hand.
Oh, okay, okay. That's okay. Keeping it real. 2021. Show us your book again, please. All right, hold on a minute. Let me see if I can get that up. Hold on. Let me do that. Let's see if we can get you to highlight that more. Hold on. Let's see if we can get your. No, I want to get your. Hold on, girl. Gonna see if I can highlight you. Nope, it's not happening here. It's not.
It's okay.
That's okay. Yeah, that's good. This is good. This is good.
Yeah,
Yep.
It is a beautiful.
Hold on for me. Hold it up. Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Oh, gorgeous. Okay. And so where can we purchase this, my lovely?
My website, ZaZaAli.com. This is where my workbooks are. My other books are on Amazon, but my workbooks are all on my site, ZaZaAli.com.
All right, let's just put that up. Give me a second. Yes, now it's just me. So ZaZaAli. Yes. I've loved the conversation. I know that other people have loved the conversation too. I think that it's well needed and it's honest, and that's what I love about your work. You give an honest account. Yeah. You're not, there's no kind of like you don't pussyfoot around. Yeah, I can imagine, I don't know if you use the term Marmite, talk about Marmite in your country where you are, but we talk about Marmite. It's like a spread and you either love it or you hate it. And I refer to myself as Marmite personally.
Yeah.
So I recognize a Marmite queen when I see one.
For sure. It's fascinating to me how people intensely love me or intensely take issue with me,
Totally. Yeah. I'm not for everyone. That's how I see it. Yeah. And I'm comfortable with that. Very comfortable. Is that's you? Yeah. Is that right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
I've got it up on another screen. So if it's not it, that's it. So you can contact the sister there. This is also a handle. Yeah. So I _am_Zaza_Ali. Yeah. Let's just go to the comments quickly as well. And I appreciate that. We really appreciate that you've come on. And I know that, it's not easy conversation to have. These kinds of conversations about the realness of our relationships and the dynamics that happen in our community, they're not easy. They're never going to be comfortable. But if we want to grow, we have to be uncomfortable.
Absolutely.
Yeah. You can't expect to grow, without the discomfort. When a tree is budding, it's not comfortable.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
But it does it anyway, and it grows and it prospers and it bears fruit. And there's a reason for that. So we have to recognize that same level of growth and cultivation comes through us in the same way. Just a few okay, let me just a couple of messages. Daddy makes dough. May you both be blessed, my sisterins. Give thanks for the time and space. It was more than expected. That's give thanks. Give thanks, bro. And we have Kushti Cosmetics will be definitely purchasing. Yep, absolutely. That is definitely my next read. And we got James. Oh, thank you so much. Much love and respect to you both and all. And we have here, Fatwa Sene, ZaZaAli Red Pill Antidote.
Yeah, I take that. Absolutely.
That's you. We have Anna Keone. Give thanks, sis. It was beautiful. The website isn't working, or the link in your Insta bio. Okay. All right. Well, you're gonna have to check that again. I think it's let's just check that. You check that so we can get find out if that's
working. I just pulled it up on my phone.
All right. Well, check her out. Look, go
to my website, ZaZaAli.com. It's just going to take you to my,
Absolutely, yeah. So, just check it out. Do a little extra search. We had some trouble, actually. I think it might have to do with it's an international thing, because we had a little trouble getting you on different systems, like your name.
My pages are probably, the algorithms probably pick up my pages because, I talk about it in a real way. And, you go to my website, one of the first things you see is my Science as a Weapon series, which everybody can go and look at that, where I really kind of got into the nitty gritty of what's going on. So that's probably why.
Yeah. I know. I can imagine that, there's trying to muzzle the situation out here, but contact her, be in touch, get onto her page, get her work. Yeah, we'd love to have you back, sis, if you happily come back. I'd
Anytime.
love to have you back. It would be fantastic, and we can,
Anytime.
we can sit some tea all over again.
He ain't gonna bail out when the conversation starts getting hot.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
honestly, no. To be fair, I'm a person. I'm very selective who I work with. I have to say,
Yeah.
and I will not. And he's a brother who's very balanced in his thinking.
Oh, I'm messing. I'm
and
messing.
So a lot of no, I have to say this on his behalf now. But a lot of our brothers will not necessarily agree with what he has to say, and he comes with things that people are gonna be like, it's gonna shock the system to a lot of brothers how he thinks. Yeah. So I recognize that. And and I humbly accept that. That's it's great for me, because I need to be working with people on that frequency. I cannot, I cannot. And so, sis, I want to thank you. I'm going to close the show. You stay where you are. I'm gonna put you in the backstage. Just wait there. Go and use the bathroom if you want, whatever it is. And I'm just going to close down the show, and we're gonna wrap after. All right. So thank you so much, sis. All right, and we'll catch up. Okay. So thank you so much for a fantastic show, everyone who got involved. I know we started a little late, but it was worth the wait, was it not? Can I hear? It was worth the wait. Yeah. So let's just make sure that, we support the sister. She is speaking absolute facts and jewels. Yeah. We don't necessarily get that level of communication from our people often in this way. Metaphysics is something that a lot of us don't talk about. I love it. It's a subject I love, to be fair. So I can talk about it all day. So I think there's a brilliant build. Yes, please come back again, sis. Thank you so much. I think that's going to be fantastic. Great conversation. Yeah. And we've got, we'll definitely be purchasing the book. Yep, absolutely. I'm going to be on the list for that. So I think it was amazing. It was amazing. Was worth the wait. Absolutely. Fantastic. Absolutely, for sure. Yeah, give thanks, sis. It was beautiful. I think we've done that. Website isn't working. Don't worry. We'll get that sorted. And I'm sure the sister, if anything just shows up, just holler at us and let us know. Yeah. Or just holler me on my Insta, and then I'll be in contact and let you know about that. Yeah. And finally, she's no, she's not promoting division, and you can't see it. No, she's definitely not promoting division. That's for sure. But everything has been fantastic and ordained and divine. It's been a beautiful conversation. I appreciate everybody who's come onto here today. I know we should definitely have our sister back. We deserve to have these kinds of conversations in our community. Honest, candid, upfront, clear, neat, no chaser. Yeah, I love straight talk. I love women who can speak straight. I have to say, I just like people who I don't like them and I don't trust them. Yeah. So I keep I'm very discerning about those types of things. So I really want us to make sure that we as a community, support our sister, support the kinds of conversations that we're supposed to be having. These are the kinds of important conversations we're supposed to be having now. Like, I know that we sometimes feel a little bit like, well, it feels like, your shots fired, like somebody said earlier. And at the end of the day, if we don't have these honest conversations, how are we going to grow? How are we going to develop? How are we going to really get past what is coming? Yeah, let's be very, very clear. There's stuff coming. And if we're not going to have these straight conversations about what's going on outside of our community, how we think, because how we think impacts on how we feel, what we feel, impacts on the actions we take. So it's very, very important that we have these conversations. I appreciate the love in the space from our community here, and I want you to be able to sit down inside yourselves and make sure that you have learned something from that. Make sure that this is not a passive conversation. Well, it was a really great conversation, really great dialogue between the sisters and the brothers. It was great. I love all of those kinds of things myself. But apply our wisdom needs, it needs application for us to manifest this. For us to leave a legacy, we must manifest. And for us to manifest, we must take action. Yeah. So I have to say that with love and respect to you all. Yeah. I give thanks. And I want you to say to you, as I always do at the end of the show. Yeah. Don't forget. Yeah. Don't forget now. Yeah. And don't forget, if you ain't got nothing, if you ain't got kush.
Quarantine Convo. Quarantine Convos. Enjoy weekly discussions with people from around the world, assisting us in dealing with this normal, mentally, spiritually, and physically. We feature nutritionists, psychologists, therapists, personal trainers, home educators, legal experts, and more, bringing you all the information and inspiration you need. Check out Quarantine Convos every Thursday from 7 p.m. live on Got Kush TV.
2020, a year of many unforeseen challenges, where all had to adjust to a new reality. And despite it all, Got Kush TV was and still is here to serve you. And what a year it's been. We began the repatriation journey with our new show, Voyage to Motherland. We dropped the knowledge as you took your seats in the Kush Community and joined us to hold a meds with the Ankh Doctor. Got Kush TV invited you to get involved in conscious, controversial conversation and enter the cipher. And when the world went into lockdown, we kept you connected with the Quarantine Convos. We kept our finger on the pulse of the community with coverage of the Reparations Rebellion and the Black Pound Day All Dayer. Not to mention more wordsmith and a slew of new music video releases for your viewing pleasure. And the official launch of the Got Kush TV website. We also brought you events, including Women of Power and, of course, Blacktricity. Now, in 2021, Got Kush TV is continuing to level up the thing. First up, we are pleased to inform you that GotKushTV.com is open to exclusive membership. Sign up to any of our membership tiers and you will gain access to playbacks from all our events and an ever-growing list of exclusive original content, including interviews, documentaries, and shows such as Kush Community. To become an official member of GotKushTV.com, simply hit the membership tab. Stay tuned for continued updates. Then there's the new shows. Look out for more Decipher, Wordsmith, Hold a Meds with the Ankh Doctor, and weekly episodes of Quarantine Convos focused on health, wellness, education, and inspiration for our community. As always, the Got Kush TV film team is available for hire to cover all your events, adverts, infomercials, and all filming needs. Visit us at gotkushtv.com for hire inquiries and more information. Stand by all black businesses through our website, social media, and show content. We have monumental advertising, sponsorship, and network opportunities catering specially for you. Check out the advertising page on gotkushtv.com for more information. Got Kush TV is in full flight to join us for the ride. There's 4 things you can do. Subscribe to our channel. Hit that bell to make sure you don't miss a release. Join us on all social media and hit up gotkushtv.com to subscribe to our mailing list and sign up to become a Got Kush TV member for exclusive opportunities in the near future. Let us know you are feeling our content by hitting that ever so important button of approval. Comment. We want to hear your feedback on everything we are putting out. So make sure your presence is felt in the comment section. Share. Spread the word by hitting that share button and exposing your circle to the magnificence that is Got Kush TV. We are looking forward to building with you throughout 2021 and servicing you with high quality black media production. Got Kush TV. Beyond discussion, beyond debate, we put the power in black media.